Wir sind jetzt im Carlo Acutis Zentrum in der Nähe von Assisi Richtung Carceri. Wir treffen hier die Mutter, Antonia, um mit ihr ins Gespräch zu kommen. Wir sind schon neugierig, was sie uns zu erzählen hat. Das Carlo Acutis Zentrum ist ein Paradies für Tiere und für die Natur. Hier hätte auch Franz von Assisi eine große Freude.
Wenn wir wieder kommen, werden sie Ciao sagen, sag ich euch. Die merken sie uns jetzt.
Die müssen erst das mal verdauen, dass so viel Leute da sind.
Wir müssen alle Ciao sagen. Ja, sollen wir mal schauen? So hoch ist es.
War da immer.
Carlo Acutis war ein großer Fan der Mutter Gottes.
Okay, ich kann nicht sehr gut sprechen in deutscher Sprache, aber Johanna vielleicht kann erklären, ja?
Ja.
Weil wenn ich...
Möchtest du dort sitzen? Dort sitzen?
Aha. Sie sprechen Italienischer? Oder Deutsch? No.
Deutsch und
Englisch?
Englisch.
Alles?
Ja.
Ja, okay. Weil ich spreche nicht sehr gut Deutsch, so wenn ich
Sehr gut Deutsch.
no. It is important to focus on the most important things. The most important things for Carlo was Eucharist, is highway to heaven. He used to call Eucharist is highway to heaven, and he did his first communion when he was 7 years old, and because he was quite advanced respect to the age of his friends, no? It was always running. I always say that Carlo was going behind the time, no? Instead of running after. Because he was really very advanced since he was very small. So 4 years old, he was able to read, to to write. So it was this making also his spirituality was very advanced. So this is the reason why when he was 7 years old, when there was the bishop that was the secretary of Paul VI, Paul VI, that then became bishop. The Bishop Macchi, the name was, that had a speech with him and declared that he was ready to do his first Holy Communion in advance. Even if many saints say that the important thing is to distinguish bread from the body of Christ, like San Pio X and San Carlo Borromeo and San Giovanni Bosco, they all were very, favorable to the fact that the children will approach the Eucharist when they were very small, no? And in my opinion, this is true, because when you take you have the baptismal innocence still, no? When you do the first communion when you are young. Instead, when you grow, you start to be always more, compromised from the world. So it's much difficult. I can sto parlando. And so it is very important to focus on what Carlo used to say about the Eucharist. He used to say that we are much liker than people who lived more than 2,000 years ago with Jesus, because these people, in order to see Jesus, were obliged to do many kilometers, and Jesus was always surrounded by many crowds. And let's think about St. Matthew, Zacchaeus, who had to go up to the trees in order to see Jesus. Instead, they used to say that we are much liker, because for us to meet Jesus, it is sufficient to go in the first church under our house and we find Jerusalem among us. And they used to say that the tabernacle should be visited with the same devotion like when you go in Jerusalem. Jesus promised, I will be with you till the end of the earth. And in fact, Jesus is among us, who lives among us, who is really living always close to us. And since there was the crucifixion of Jesus, Carlo used to say, that our world, from a geological point of view, from an astronomic point of view, is always the same. But from a supernatural point of view, is not anymore the same planet, because we have the cohabitation of the Holy Trinity among us. The Holy Trinity took place in this world and is living our life since. And so Carlo used to be really aware about this presence of God, and he used to live this presence of God really in a particular way. In each thing he used to do, he was always doing for Jesus, through Jesus, in Jesus. So each thing he used to do was with this presence of God, and he was a witness of this presence. This was the particularity of Carlo. His spiritual life was really a witnessing of his faith on Jesus. And he used to say that there are queues in order to watch a concert, no? In front of actors or influencer or football match. But there are not this queue in front of the tabernacle. So this is the reason why he was really concerned about this, and he did this exhibition about the Eucharistic miracles that is going all around the world, because he wanted to help people to think about the real presence of God in the Blessed Sacrament. Because he used to say that if people would be aware, the church would be so full that nobody could enter inside. And he was aware about this. And the fact that in front of the tabernacle sometimes you don't see anybody. This is a true, a real sign that Jesus is, people don't understand the importance of the real presence of God. And Carlo used to do, since he did his first Holy Communion, he used to go to Mass each day. Either before or after the Mass, he used to do Eucharistic adoration each day. So he used to say three things about Eucharistic adoration. You know what is it, Eucharistic adoration? The young children knows or not? Do you know what Eucharistische Adoration?
Anbetung. Eucharistische Anbetung.
Okay. No, because some young people don't know what is it, so I want to be sure that they understand. So, used to say to various things, you know. First things, used to say that in front of the Son you become Tan, but in front of the Blessed Sacrament you became Saint. And used to say that, I don't know if you have, when you see a room, you know, with the light that is not so bright, you know, that there is a little bit of shadow, it enters a ray of the sun, you know? And in this ray you see a little bit the dust, no, floating in the air, because they reflect the light, you know? So this is the reason why we see. And he used to say that when we do Eucharistic adoration, it's like we receive this ray from the Blessed Sacrament, and all the dust that is inside us, all the things that are, you know, the venial sin we have still, you know, all that things that make us not perfect, it comes out. It's like if Jesus, through this Eucharistic adoration, help us to make all these things to come out, no? And this is very important to do Eucharistic adoration, because of course help us to focalize this awareness about our defaults, no? Secondly, he used to say that we are like Moses in front of the bush, no? In the Mount Sinai, when he was in front of the bush where there was the presence of God. And when Moses was praying, the people of Israel used to win against the Amalekite or against this nomad population. And when Moses stopped to pray, they lose the battles. Huh? And so the importance of the prayer of intercession in front of the Blessed Sacrament. And he used to say also that if you think about the episode of Moses, no? When he used to come away from the Mount Sinai, he was all bright, you know, like shining, you know. It is what Carlo used to say is the same thing that happened to us when we go in front of the Blessed Sacrament. Really, we receive this light that really is like if this light purify us. But it's true. Really, to be in front of the Blessed Sacrament, I mean, you do your path towards holiness is very rapid. And he used to say that it is very important. So also because we can ask many graces when do Eucharistic adoration. Jesus gave us, because who is more effective than God, who offered himself to God in order to obtain graces. No? If you think about the Mass, a lot of soul of the purgatory ask for Mass to be free from purgatory. No? They ask, they say, that, for example, Father Pio received many visits from the soul of the purgatory. Also Carlo had this things to see a little bit the purgatory too, and they ask prayers. For example, the first experience he had with the purgatory soul was I had my father who died when he was quite young. He was 57 years old. and he died for an heart attack, no? And he was a very generous man, but he was not practical at all. And I mean, when he died suddenly, because we didn't expect, no? And Carlo had the vision of the grandfather who was asking for prayers because he was in the purgatory. And since then he started to pray very much. And you know that when you do Eucharistic adoration, you gain the indulgenza plenaria, 30 minutes to do Eucharistic adoration, and you can offer either to the purgatory soul or for yourself. Okay, it's like when you do, for example, the Rosary, you pray the Rosary, you can gain perpetual indulgencia. If you pray the Rosary in the family, or in the church, in front of the Blessed Sacrament, or in a religious community. Huh? And then when you read also the Holy Scripture for 30 minutes, you can have the indulgenza plenaria. So it's very important, because the indulgenza, Carlo used to say that are very important, especially when we die, because they give us the predisposition to do the perfect contrition act, in order to be ready to go direct to heaven. Huh? So all this indulgencia help us, even if I know that Lutero didn't like indulgencia, but Lutero unfortunately didn't understand, no? But we know that indulgencia help the predisposition of our inner spirituality to be ready to do this contrition against all the sin we do, in order to be able to go direct to heaven. It's not easy, because most of people go to purgatory. So the problem is that to go direct to heaven, which is a goal that you should have. No. Why? Why not? You have to have a high goal, not a low goal, because each one of us is called to be saint. For each one of us, there is Carlo used to say, there is a special design, a special project that God, see the eternity, has for us, for each one of us. Each one of us is the original. He used to say, Carlo, all are born original, but many dies as photocopies. Because the problem is to die as photocopies is not to realize the project that God since the eternity had for each one of us. And what?
They have to.
Fatima, angel asked for reparation against the Blessed Sacrament. So Carlo used to do this against the Blessed Sacrament, all the offense they do. So you should practice this Eucharistic adoration. When they do Eucharistic adoration in the monastery, normally, if they fight against each other, there are a lot of problems. When they start to do Eucharistic adoration each day, the situation changes, they have a lot of vocation, etc. So this was the spiritual main most important path of Carlo. Then there was this fact that Carlo was donating himself to the others, no? So he was, for example, helping the beggar in the street, because we live in the center of Milano. So when there was somebody sleeping in the street, he was helping, bringing blankets, food. It was very organized. Because as Mother Teresa used to say, that we don't have to go to Calcutta, no? We can find Calcutta under our house. So it's very important to think that we can do the good as soon as we go around. And this was the most important, just to focalize, because I know you have a short time, so I cannot do a long speech. But and then the Virgin Mary. The prayer to Virgin Mary and the consecration to Immaculate Heart each day. Each day, Carlo used to consecrate himself to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Mary, in the apparition of Fatima, said that we should ask the grace through her Immaculate Heart that we will obtain this prayer. So it's very important always to refuge ourselves in the Immaculate Heart of Mary and to pray each day the Rosary, to be faithful to this prayer. Carlo was praying each day since he was 4 years old, the prayer of the Rosary. Really, each day. If I say to you that he was writing and reading that for 4 years old, the first word 3 months. He started to speak at 3 months old. 3 months. Thank you. You should write it. Oh, five.
And this is a disc inspired by Santa Bakhita, Josefina Bakhita.
Ah, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for all. Is it possible to have a relic?
You are a priest?
Yes, I'm a priest.
Sì, forse, aspetta, Isabella, lui vorrebbe, è un prete, vorrebbe una reliquia, magari ti fai poi scrivere, dagli una piccolina dei capelli quella.
Aufbruch wieder nach Österreich. Ciao Assisi, ciao Francesco, ciao Chiara, ciao Carlo.